This episode brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now. You're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
Welcome to Sugar Coated Murder Podcast, a brilliant true crime podcast hosted by two zany sisters, all while baking up delicious treats in their kitchen. Here are your podcast hosts, Karen Devaney and Ann Varner.
And we're on.
Hello.
We're off to the races.
Welcome to Sugar Coated Murder Podcast.
We continue to show up.
Yeah, we do. Here we are again.
We show up randomly. It's a surprise to everybody. We like to keep people guessing.
We don't really have much of a schedule these
We
days.
don't have much of a schedule. I'm not sure what has happened. Life has come at us a couple of times and, we get overwhelmed. We have to pause to take care of our physical health. I mean, I had a virus that lasted over 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was crazy. I just now feel like I'm getting my voice back and I'm not coughing all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm choking on my tonsils.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to
So
listen
that's
to you
good.
choke on
And
your tonsils.
we got to take care of our physical health, our mental health. We have to take care of everything.
Everything. There's a lot to be taken care of.
So, but you know what? I'm not sure. I feel like going forward this summer, at least, we're going to be on a little bit of
We're just going to be on a relaxed schedule.
And we hope y'all can stick it out with us. Just relax.
Yeah, we're pushing out our book.
Everybody, we're pushing out our book. We're working hard on it, and so that's taking up a lot of time and energy. And you know what? It's hot.
Oh my Lord!
As a matter of fact, guys, it's too hot to cook.
No, we're not cooking.
We're not cooking right now. I don't know that this summer we're going to have a lot of cooking episodes because it's too hot to turn on the stove, especially in the middle of the day.
If I come across a good summer recipe, I feel like y'all need to know. We'll share it with you.
We'll definitely share it with you.
I'm not heating my kitchen up. I love y'all, but I'm not heating my kitchen up.
It's too much. It's too much right now.
Yeah, and we could take a little break.
There's no
from the recipe.
We can do whatever we want because we're not sponsored.
No, we are not sponsored.
Nobody's paying us to put these out.
They are not.
So I'm not breaking any laws.
That's right. Plus, I'm trying to watch after my girlish figure, so.
That's right. We're all trying to do things.
Yeah.
We're all trying to do things.
So let's talk more murder.
Let's talk a little moida today. Got some moida going on?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
I'm going to start out, and this is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
You are very well aware that I grew up and lived most of my life in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I love everything about Virginia. I love it.
Me too.
I love Virginia.
I love Virginia too.
And when I moved to South Carolina, I wasn't sure how I was going to adjust, how I was going to feel, because I really am passionate about Virginia. But I settled in here and it immediately felt like home.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't describe it. I feel like I'm home. We've got beautiful beaches and our marshes here are truly something out of a picture book.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Turn your dial to find the frequency of the past.
Captain Midnight.
Where the classic stories of mysteries, sci-fi, thrillers, and suspense are found waiting to be heard once again.
Another case for Nick Carter, Master Detective.
You'll find a variety of those stories here, in their original form, where each episode takes you to another place or time.
The Man of Bronze, Doc Savage.
But only when you find the mystery frequency. Available everywhere.
The Shadow knows.
I've never seen
gorgeous.
anything like it. Where Virginia, you can tell the seasons by the change in the color of the leaves. Here, you can tell the seasons by the change in the color of the marsh grasses.
Which I think is spectacular. We do have we do have a fall here, and we do get a fall color. It's just not a traditional fall color that people are looking for. But
and it's not in the leaves, it's
in the grass, and it's just so gorgeous. And I love it.
We live in an area where we have dolphins in our creek all the time.
Yeah. Manatees
come through. I've not seen one, but I hear they're there. We've got the most incredible birds.
Oh my gosh, the waterfowl here. And just the migratory birds.
They're incredible.
It's just, I mean, it really is. I've never lived in such a, I don't even know, wildlife amazement.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it.
It's beautiful.
But
even
it is
alligators here. They
like
just
nowhere else.
The scenery. They're an amazing creature.
It's crazy. Some are brown, some are green, some are black.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the craziest thing. They even have, they're all colorful and stuff too.
Do.
And they have colorful personalities.
They certainly do.
You should just physically stay away from them.
But as beautiful as South Carolina is, we seem to have a very large black hole that is dirty, vile, corrupt,
it is,
and unforgiving.
That's the people part.
And that is the way that men are allowed to treat women in this state.
Yeah.
We have a problem with men behaving badly and being allowed to do so. And if you want to see what find out more about what I'm talking about, I encourage you to look into the murder of Sarah Lynn Colucci. Look into the murder of Katie Major.
Mm-hmm.
Look into the case of Micah Francis, who people call Micah Miller. All three of these women are said to have committed suicide, but there is clear and convincing evidence that their husbands murdered them.
That is true.
And that's just a few of the more public cases here in South Carolina, two of which are local, happened in our county. Trust me, when you read up on these facts and the facts of those cases, it's going to make your stomach turn.
Yeah.
So when I woke up this morning, a name popped into my head. It's one of those crazy things that happens when we start researching our cases.
Mm-hmm.
We think we want to report on one case, and then pow, we're headed in a different direction.
Amen. Yes.
I've known about this case for many years, but haven't been drawn to talk about it because I knew someone associated with the family, and I wanted to be sensitive to their exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is an unsolved case, and in the past, we haven't really cared. We haven't really not cared, but covered them.
Definitely.
We have not
covered them.
But that's going to change.
It is going to change because there are cases out there that need to be talked about, and a lot of them are the unsolved ones.
They are. And we're not here to solve the case. We're here to give the facts. We're here to hope that somebody out there listening knows something and will say something, because these victims no longer have a voice.
No.
So we have to be their voice.
We absolutely do. And listen, that's why we started this podcast.
That's right.
That's exactly the reason we started this podcast. So it's time for us to put our money where our mouth is.
That's right.
And just not be afraid, and don't let anything hold us back.
Yes. Gayle McCaffrey has not been seen since March 12th, 2012. At the time of her disappearance, she had a 4-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. She worked for the Citadel, which is a military college here in Charleston, much like the Virginia Military Institute in Virginia. She sang in her church choir, and I'm very jealous. She rang the bells for her church choir.
Are you
something
kidding?
that I always wanted to do.
Me too.
She was a loving, devoted mother. She was friendly to everyone. And according to the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, her husband, Robert McCaffrey, reported his wife, Gayle, missing on Sunday, March the 13th. He told police that on March 12th, he and his wife left around 2:30 to go out to eat. When they returned home, they got into a heated verbal argument, and he left the house to go for a walk so they could cool down. He said when he returned from his walk, Gayle was lying on their bed, ignoring him. And after getting the silent treatment from his wife, he decided that he would go for a drive to the upstate. He said that he returned home and that was about 10 o'clock in the evening. He returned home at 6:30 the next morning to find his wife gone, his 2 children alone, and a goodbye note along with Gayle's wedding ring, car keys, wallet, checkbook, and cell phone.
Well, what was she doing? Because she wasn't going to buy any muffins for breakfast.
After a deep dive investigation into Robert's report, we now know that this story isn't 100% accurate.
You've got to be kidding me.
In fact, Gayle and Robert didn't go out to eat. They ate at home. It was St. Patrick's Day, and they were having cabbage rolls with a friend.
Oh,
yes.
Did he forget about the friend?
Maybe. Maybe.
Or did he think the police just wouldn't talk to her?
I don't know. According to the friend who was present during the meal, Robert received a phone call during the meal from a woman Gayle suspected he was having an affair with. That's what the argument was about. Robert had been talking, texting, and emailing with a woman for more than a month. And Gayle was very upset about it. And she hoped that she could work on her marriage, but she still was very upset about it. She still felt like there was a chance, there was hope for her marriage.
Of course.
As a matter of fact, she had booked a romantic getaway just 2 days prior to this argument for she and her husband because she felt like maybe if they got away, things would work out.
Okay.
When Robert left, he was heading to see that woman at a bar where she worked. According to the woman, she refused to speak to Robert that night, and we know that he went because on his way home, he got a speeding ticket. As for the goodbye letter, it looked a little suspicious to the detectives. The letter said she was leaving to be with another man, her lover, Nikki, and that she had found a safe in the attic that contained $110,000 in cash and a gun. In the letter, she said she would use the gun on Robert if he tried to find her. During the investigation, police found the following. Robert was having a full-on affair with the woman he was texting the night Gayle went missing. The woman testified about their relationship during a grand jury investigation. He had been meeting her at motels, and they had been sexually active for some time. Detectives had a linguistics specialist investigate the typed goodbye letter. It was typed, not handwritten. Typed, right? And the specialist testified that Gayle did not write that letter.
Really?
Number one, it used language Gayle didn't typically use in her correspondence. Number two, there was no indication that Gayle was having an affair. None. Zero.
No, and can I just say when I started doubting that affair is when you said that she was dating a man named Nicky.
No. Right.
I was like,
no.
Wait. Say what?
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you be called Nicky?
Like, there are not many men that go by Nicky.
They go by Nick.
They go by Nick.
Yeah.
Not Nicky. So this man, maybe he was hoping his wife was going to have an affair with a woman and named the man Nicky in his brain.
Right.
I don't know. But that was a red flag. Just the name itself. I was like, I don't believe that name for a minute. Either she told her husband this guy's name is Nicky, so he thinks, well, go be with him because he's not a real person. And I'm sorry for any men that call themselves Nicky. You're fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying I'm not buying this one.
The third thing is, according to the description of the safe that Robert described, it would have weighed about 350 pounds.
She's just going to strap that right to her back and keep going.
Gayle was 5'2" tall,
and
she weighed about 155 pounds. There was no way she was getting a 350-pound safe from the attic because it wasn't just the money and the gun that was missing, also the safe.
Okay, can I just stop you right there real quick? Just for a second.
Yes.
If I get murdered, okay, and they have to release the autopsy findings, could you please have them fudge my weight?
I'm going to have it redacted.
Can you have it redacted or fudge it? Like, let's take it down a few.
That was a typo. I'm testifying in court.
Can you please say?
I know my sister. That was a typo.
Yeah, I mean, she was frail. She was just frail,
tiny.
She was just a tiny thing. Yeah, okay,
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I hope you do the same for me.
I will.
In addition, everyone that police spoke to said there is no way in hell that Gayle would have ever left her children. They also said there was no safe in the attic. Nobody else had seen said safe except for Robert, who goes by Bob, but I call him Robert. Bob. Robert did not report Gayle missing until 5:19 p.m. on the Sunday that he got home. That's almost 12 hours after he returned from his trip to attempt to see his mistress. And according to relatives, they really had to push him to make that report. The night that Robert reported Gayle missing, the sheriff's office took the two children into protective custody because they had been left alone in the home. At a hearing, the children were later placed with one of Gayle's sisters, and Robert was allowed supervised visitation, but according to reports, he was quick to push the children off and made few attempts to maintain a relationship with them.
Well, that's a real jackass movie.
The children were adopted by their aunt. By August of 2012, Robert had moved to North Carolina and started a new life with a new woman.
A new woman?
A new woman.
Not the same woman.
No, the other woman booted him out.
She did.
She was like, I was done with him, and he wouldn't leave me alone.
Oh.
She testified. I'm sorry, I probably forgot that.
I didn't know. I didn't notice.
Their relationship was over when he went to see her, and then he evidently would not leave her alone. So
beautiful.
Yes. So this is August. She went missing in March. August now he's moved on and with a new woman and abandoned his children. Evidence presented to a grand jury was deemed to be not enough to charge Robert with murder because it was all circumstantial. You got no body, right? You just got a lot of circumstantial evidence. In 2019, Robert was charged with obstruction of justice because he had lied during the investigation, which was the best they could do at this point.
Yeah, but they're trying to wrangle him and get him.
That's right.
In jail.
It's a shame it took 7 years to get to that point, but it took 7 years to get to that point.
Whatever.
He had, in fact, forged that goodbye letter, and after his initial interview in 2012, he refused to speak to police again about his missing wife. Refused. There were no more interviews. There were no more questions answered. There was no further
it's just
information.
like, I'm moving on.
Done.
Sorry that my wife is missing, but she's with Nikki and I'm moving on.
Done. Done. With everything. My whole family. I'm done with all of them.
Done with my children.
Right.
That I brought into this world. Done with my wife, who I think is with a person that's named Nikki, that she left her checkbook, but she took the safe.
I'm just going to take the $110,000 and the gun.
I'm going to take the $110,000 and the 350-pound safe.
Yes, because I need somewhere to put my cash.
And the gun, because I'm no longer going to use my checkbook or my ID. I'm not going to use it.
I'm not even going to take my car. I'm going to leave my car here.
I'm going to leave my car, and you can have the keys.
Everything.
Because
I just want to... I'm not going to call anybody.
No, I'm not even going to call Nikki. He knows I'm just going to come find him somewhere in the world.
Right. That he would accuse her of abandoning her children when, in fact, he abandoned his children.
Absolutely.
It's just ridiculous. He was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
All right. That's a start.
In 2022, he was denied parole. In 2023, he waived consideration for parole. Mm-hmm. But by May 1st of 2023, he was released on good behavior into the South Carolina Supervised Reentry Program. In March of 2018, Marjorie Gayle McCaffrey was legally declared dead. Her credit cards, bank accounts, debit card, cell phone number, none of it had been used since her disappearance in 2012. This was the court's way to protect her estate and allow it to go to her children and not to her husband. In March of this year, the Charleston County Sheriff's Office renewed their call for justice in the 12-year-old cold case and said they are still looking for answers. Robert McCaffrey remains the number one suspect. They believe he murdered his wife.
Where did they live?
West Ashley, right here in South Carolina. If anybody out there has any information at all that they think might help find out what happened to Gayle McCaffrey, please call the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. Their phone number is 843-554-2241. Gayle shouldn't be forgotten. She deserves to be found. Her family deserves to know the truth. They deserve to be able to bury her remains. This case is considered a homicide, and I hope that somebody out there has some kind of information.
Today is a good day to be a hero.
That's right. And you may think it's insignificant. It may be, he was pouring concrete at my house one day. That's important information.
Yeah. Or, I saw him in the drugstore one day and, he was acting really weird and he said some strange things and I didn't think about it. And then, a couple days later, his wife turned up missing, but nobody ever came to talk to me. So I didn't tell anybody.
Right. Be proactive.
Yeah. Don't wait for somebody to come to you.
And if you mentioned something back then and you feel like it got overlooked, go back again.
Yes.
It's a whole different team now.
Yeah.
It's been 12 years.
12 years.
There's more advancement in technology. There are more things they can do with information than they used to be able to do.
Absolutely.
But this woman did not type a written letter to say goodbye, leave her wedding ring and all of her belongings along with her 2 young children, 4 and 10 years old.
And left them alone.
And left them alone in the house.
No, she would not have done that.
No, that is not something that she would have done.
And those children, golly, they deserve answers. Her parents deserve answers.
Her sisters deserve answers.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I'll give you just a little bit of insight. There is a Facebook page. It's a private group that deals with Gayle's disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
And her sisters are the administrators of that page. And I went in and just kind of read some information. Imagine how it would feel if every single time human remains are found in the area, in the upstate area, in all different counties in South Carolina, you stop and think that could be my sister.
I think you stop and hold your breath until you figure out who that person was that they found.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah. You never get away from it. It never gets better.
No.
There's no acceptance.
No.
There's no peace. There's no closure. There's nothing. There is just unanswered questions. And a piece of your family is gone and you want answers. I mean, it's horrible.
Right.
They miss her. She's missed. She brought love and light to people and they don't get that anymore.
Right.
And that sucks.
And it's obvious that her husband is not going to be truthful about what really happened that night.
No. And he doesn't usually in South Carolina. I'm hoping things are turning around, but usually the husbands don't have to.
No. And he's moved out of state. So I think sometimes when that happens, it just, police throw up their hands and they're like, there's nothing we can do about it. It's a cold case, blah, blah, blah. But go back, look at the evidence again. Look at everything.
Think about the statistics in South Carolina that it used to be in South Carolina, the number 1 killer of women was domestic violence, homicide by partner.
How horrible is that?
Now that's down to second. I think I don't know, because their laws have started to change a little bit.
And the only way they get changed is by people who continue to badger law enforcement.
And that's an exhausting
representative.
That's an exhausting life to live.
It's exhausting. And I'll tell you who's doing that. And that's Mandy Matney.
Oh my God.
I know we talk about her a lot. She has no idea who we are.
No, she doesn't know us. We don't get money from her.
Never met her.
I do follow her on social media, but I don't interact with her.
No, and I do listen to her podcast, but she and her partner Liz Farrell are investigative journalists.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
They're not afraid.
They've got Beth who does the FOIA stuff. Yeah. They're a great team, and then they've got Eric who knows the law stuff.
Right, and they go for the jugular. Well, they're going for it,
and I don't think they.
Proud of them because they are not afraid to stand up for what is right.
No, and let's just be clear. They're not men haters.
No, they're not men haters.
They're seekers of truth and justice, and they fight just as hard for male victims as they do for female victims.
Absolutely.
It's just unfortunate that in our state right now and for years, women have been murdered by their domestic partners at an alarming rate.
Alarming.
And it's gone unsolved, unclosed, or maybe it's been closed, but people don't agree with the decisions that were made, the way it was investigated or not investigated. People are not taken at their word. It's really, really scary for women.
Women are not taken at their word.
They're not.
Here's a great instance in the Micah Francis case. Her married name was Miller, but she had filled out paperwork for a divorce and had requested that she be able to take her maiden name when the divorce was final. She died before then. There are a lot of people who feel like, including her family, that she should be given her maiden name. So now people are trying to call her Micah Francis because that's what she does.
This episode brought to you by Progressive. Whether you're driving, cooking, or doing laundry, Progressive knows the podcasts you listen to go best when they're bundled with another activity. Much like how their Progressive home and auto policies go best when they're bundled. Having these two policies together makes taking care of your insurance easier and could help you save, too. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save over $775 on average. That's a whole lot of savings and protection for your favorite podcast listening activities, like going on a road trip, cooking dinner, and even hitting the home gym. Yep, your home and your car are even easier to protect when you bundle your insurance together. Find your perfect combo. Get a home and car insurance quote at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $779 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Sure. But in one instance where there was an issue with a car that she had driven, her husband came and took the car and told police it was marital property, that the car was in both of their names, when in fact it wasn't. And the police officer said, okay.
He just took his word for it?
Took his word for it.
He didn't look at the title?
He didn't look at the registration.
Like, why wouldn't you do that? You're standing right there.
Because he took that man at his word. And I don't know if he would have done the same if it was a woman.
I know, which is bizarre.
I hope it's a learning process for law enforcement.
Yeah, but can I just say this? I want it to be a learning process, but come on, guys. It is 2024. Like, wake the freaking hell up. Let's have better training.
Oh.
Let's have better training, empathy training. Let's have some women that have been in these situations who the law has not favored. Go talk to law enforcement and say, this is how it impacted my life.
Right.
My children's lives, my parents' lives, the lives of my community.
Exactly.
But
well,
I guess get with the freaking program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about, we'll get there. I just want, if there's anybody whose name needs to be said, to not be forgotten. I know, we've started this Say My Name series in books. There's not enough information for us to do a deep dive and cover this in that type of scenario. But say my name, Gayle McCaffrey.
Gayle McCaffrey.
Say her name.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, if we say her name enough, maybe it will change the energy surrounding her disappearance and it'll shed some light.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean.
Maybe.
Well.
Marjorie Gayle McCaffrey. She was 36 years old when she went missing.
36.
In 2012.
Not even half of her life had been lived yet.
No, not even half her life. Something happened. Her husband knows what happened.
Yeah.
And
what's scary is he did it with those children in the house too. And he doesn't care about them. That's obvious.
Yeah. Well, he needs to be honest. If for some reason he didn't do it, for whatever reason, if it wasn't him, he's not being honest. And that's hindering an investigation.
I agree.
And if you're not honest, then it certainly does look like you've got something to hide.
Yeah.
So,
that's just awful. Well, that's a murder. I mean, that's a case. That's a murder case.
It is, and it's crazy because I haven't covered it. I've known about it for a while. I know when I found out about it, I talked to you about it. And this morning, it was the first name that popped in my head when I woke up. And I said, today's your day.
Today's your day.
You're ready for it. Today is your day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that police are looking further into it. I hope we get answers.
Yes.
And, it's time for her husband to get his comeuppance.
Yes.
It's time.
It's time.
Well,
all right.
Damn.
What do you have?
I mean, can you do some kind of a dance or a jig or some kind of a ritual to get this off of us?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to do the
whoosha, whoosha,
thing
whoosha,
and
go
do
away.
the rub and rub and rub and throw it away.
I'm not rubbing you.
No, don't rub me. You're supposed to do it to yourself, you weirdo.
I'm not rubbing myself.
I
You're
am.
weird.
Look, da-da, 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 da-da.
All right, enough with the rubbing.
Dab. Shake it off. Shake it off. I've been listening to Tay-Tay today, so. All right. Well, it's the craziest thing because I have murder as well.
Okay.
How
that's
crazy is that I showed up with a murder
insane.
when we were recording our murder podcast? Like, who would have thought?
That's crazy. We're so in sync.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Not Backstreet Boys. We're in sync.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to talk about a lady named Kendy Ann Wilkins Howard.
Ooh, that's a big name.
Yeah, Kendy Howard. But I just needed to say her whole name.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I like that name.
This happens in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Idaho.
I know.
Idaho.
No, too late. You already said it.
Oh my gosh, after that Tad Daybell hearing, Lord have mercy. I don't know about Idaho.
What's going on in Idaho?
I don't know.
I don't like it.
I don't know.
No. Okay, so Kendy was born on April 30th, 1972. Her parents are Jamie and Wendell Wilkins. And she has a brother named Brian.
Brian.
That
would be Brian.
Brian.
Yes.
Brian.
It's a
Brian.
two-syllable word, not
Brian.
Brian, because then it sounds like you're brining your turkey.
No, it's Brian. Y'all know. So anyway, she grew up in a very wholesome family, lots of love. When she was young, she loved her Barbies and she loved bathtub singing.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, she used to give nightly concerts from the bathtub to the family. So whether they wanted it or not, she did that. She loved it. That was just part of her very perky, outgoing personality. And she also rode horses. She rode horses competitively at first in her youth. And then as she got into high school, she didn't have as much time. So she didn't do it competitively anymore, but she did enjoy casual riding in high school and even older outside of high school.
Oh, wow.
And
nice.
I love an equestrian.
Me too.
Eventually, she had a daughter, and then that daughter was not a product of a marriage. It was a product of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then that relationship fizzled. And eventually, she later married a man named Dan Howard. Her daughter was an infant at the time. So, it didn't take her long to get married.
Right.
And then eventually, they had a son together.
Okay.
So she had 2 children. She was a 4-H leader.
Nice.
I love it. She loved concerts. She was very involved with her kids and her family. She had loads of friends, loads and loads of friends. In 2012, she even became a grandmother and considered that little baby to be her mini-me.
Oh.
Yes. Loved it. She was a little girl and she would take her for pedicures and they would go. I mean, she just was super involved with that kid. She was always with that kid.
That's how I'm going to be as a grandmother.
I know that your son and your daughter-in-law are going to be like, do you have our kid?
Right.
So, she was described in her obituary of, somebody said her love for life was infectious.
Very nice. I love that.
When you marry a cop, I would imagine most women that marry cops, or even men that marry cops, you not just get a partner, but you also get maybe a little bit more of a protector.
Right.
Than most people would say. I mean, if you're thinking, I'm married to a police officer and that police officer's job is to protect and serve, then surely he's going to do that at home too.
Correct.
So that would be your assumption. Well, in February of 2021, Dan and Kendy were home together. Dan said he was downstairs doing some paperwork and Kendy was upstairs. He said he heard a loud thud, but he didn't go up to check on the source of that weird noise for 2 hours.
Really?
I guess he was really into that paperwork.
Oh, if I heard a thud, I'm on it.
Yeah, don't you think, even as a cop?
When we hear noises and I'll text you and say, did you
hear that? I know. Yeah. So don't you think as a cop, he would be?
Yeah, it seems very uncharacteristic of a
police officer.
Yeah, it's to not want to know what the
you would think that you would be more investigatory.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word.
Watson, I believe you're onto something.
It's elementary. It's investigatory. Which I'm sure it's not a word, but I don't know what else to say.
I think that's appropriate.
Okay. Or investigatorious.
Yes. I mean,
there's all sorts of ways to say
keep it going.
So the question is, I'm thinking, okay, 2 hours pass. My husband and I are at home alone. 2 hours pass. There isn't a time in that 2 hours when that man wanted something to drink and wanted to know if his wife knew what was in the fridge. Because, they don't get up to look.
No, they don't.
They're like, do we have so-and-so?
And he was upstairs?
No, he was downstairs. So, she was upstairs in the bedroom.
And I would want to hear some footsteps.
Well, I'm just saying.
I thought I'd be listening.
And if he thought she had fallen asleep, don't you think he'd be going up there going, why are you sleeping when you're supposed to be cleaning or whatever?
Right.
I'm just saying. He didn't need to know, where his socks were. Come on. Men ask women to find shit for them all day long.
I sense that things are going awry in the...
No. I'm not projecting at all. I'm just saying there would have been some noise. He would have noticed if she was... when it gets quiet and it's deathly quiet, you don't hear the TV, a footstep, a door open, close.
The toilet flush.
The toilet flush. Or maybe her snoring. Something. So whatever. So he claims that when he went to check on Kendy that 2 hours later, he found her in the tub with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to her mouth.
Oh, so the police officer heard a thud, but not a gunshot?
It seems like that gun just made a thud.
Okay.
Not a gunshot.
All right.
Yeah. So no wonder he didn't go and investigate. It wasn't a gunshot. It was just a thud.
This thud.
From the beginning, the investigators felt like there was something off about the crime scene.
Now, did this happen in his jurisdiction? Did this happen where he was?
He was no longer a cop in this jurisdiction.
Okay.
And I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Investigators start digging, and it turns out Dan and Kendy had some marital issues.
Really?
I know.
That's so...
and Dan, turns out, wasn't such a great guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my
such
goodness.
A great guy.
I'm shocked.
First of all, back when he was a trooper with the Idaho State Police, he got into some trouble. He had been hired in 1994. In December of 2013, after a 2.5-month internal investigation, Dan was placed on administrative leave without pay, pending the results of a criminal investigation by I am going to mess up this county. Okay. I think it's called the Kootenai, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I hope it is. I hope it's Kootenai.
The Kootenai.
I really hope it's Kootenai. I really hope.
It's Kootenai. 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 Cooter.
No, it's not that.
Anyway, in that county, that's the county that they were living in.
Right.
Whilst on his unpaid leave, Dan decided to resign.
Why was he on unpaid leave?
Because he was the suspect in a criminal investigation.
But we don't know what happened.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So he decides to resign. So he had been charged with grand theft.
Oh.
Petty theft, which they said petite theft. Theft, which I thought was really...
I love it.
Petite theft. And forgery, title fraud, and some other small weird stuff.
Okay.
I couldn't find the results of that investigation. And I kind of feel like what happened was they probably said, if you resign, we won't investigate that.
There you go.
That's kind of how I feel like it happened.
Right.
So at the time of this event that we're talking about with Kendy, he was actually working in Alaska 3 weeks a month.
Was he on an oil drig?
I don't know if he was on
oil drig.
I don't know what a drig is, but I don't think he was on. I don't know what he was doing. I mean, he could have been an Alaskan cop. They hire people from other states to go up there.
That's right.
And if he resigned and they dropped charges, there would not be any record of him being charged.
Okay.
And in Alaska, I think they're so desperate, they hire a lot of cops out of state.
Yeah. So he's working in Alaska.
So he's working in Alaska 3 weeks a month and comes home for a week and then goes back up.
Okay.
Back to Kendy's last night. When officers took Dan down to the station for the statement that they needed, they find a dead body, they're going to need a statement from the person that found the body.
We are the next Oprah's in a way.
In a way.
In a way.
This is another time capsule of what it was like to be a kid without a cell phone.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing is a hot mess express. Anyway, when we're talking about gay men,
this episode is just craziness.
I love this episode.
I haven't watched this since like back in the day, and I'm like, it's so good.
Hi, I'm Dustin, and on the Rewatch Recap, friends and I will revisit a favorite television series from years past and break down a season episode by episode and see if it hits the same the second time around. You'll get nostalgia, you'll get trivia, and maybe a few laughs along the way. Watch along with us and listen to the Rewatch Recap every Monday where most audio podcasts are played.
They did notice that Dan was repeatedly making vomiting noises into the trash can. There was no vomit, though.
Oh.
There was just vomiting noises.
Okay.
And he was wailing like he was wounded, but there were no tears.
Oh.
So he was having a hard time, I would say, squaring up his emotions.
Right.
From the physical to the verbal. They weren't matching.
Right.
Friends and family told police that Kendy was afraid of Dan. She had disclosed that he was controlling, especially with their money. They had about $2 million in assets between them. And she wanted out of the marriage. And another reason was because she was lonely, because he was going.
Yeah, he was gone all the time.
He's gone, and then you don't even know this person.
See him 1 week
and
a
then
month.
For him to be gone 3 weeks out of the month, and he's controlling that money and the assets, and
yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying? I'd be like, dude, like, what is happening? You're the one that's going.
Right.
You're leaving for 3 weeks. I don't know what you're doing. And you're going to control me. I'm home.
Right.
With our children.
Right.
Hello. And also, she had secretly rekindled a high school romance. And was making plans to leave Dan. And she wanted to move. She wanted to leave Dan and leave that town. She wanted to take her kids and move to her hometown, which I think is called Camilla.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be closer to her family and then closer to this new boyfriend, this new old boyfriend that she had. He was actually a real estate agent in that town and was assisting her in buying a home there. So he said she wanted to open up a little antique shop.
Oh, fun.
In town. She was very popular in the town when she was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted to go back and be with her people, her original people. In late January, her boyfriend got a strange call one night from Kendy. She didn't say anything, but she kept the phone line open. And what he could hear was her arguing with Dan as she tried to blockade herself into the bathroom.
Oh.
And it sounded like she was like trying to drag furniture, but there was like, he could hear pounding on the door and Dan yelling and then her yelling, like, leave me alone. I just want to be in the bathroom. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. The boyfriend hung up with her and then called her parents and said, I think she's in trouble.
Right.
So they hung up and called 911.
Oh, good.
And they asked for a welfare check. And so police actually went and showed up. I'm really impressed that they actually went. Police showed up and the couple stated that, yes, they were arguing about a possible divorce, but there was no physical altercation. Nobody was in danger.
Okay.
But Kendy seemed very relieved to have them there.
I'm sure.
And asked them to stay while she packed a bag to leave to go to her parents. And they did.
Okay.
So she left, went back to her parents' house. Her boyfriend came over, stayed with her. She was very shaken up by the whole situation. She was really scared.
Right.
And so he went over. I mean, he had been friends with her parents forever and ever. It wasn't weird for this weird guy to just show up. And he went over and stayed at the parents' house to help console her. After a couple of days, she said she needed to go back to her house.
Right.
Because she had an eye appointment and she had animals that she needed to check on.
Right.
The boyfriend begged her not to go back or at least come back to her parents' house that night. But it was like a 3-hour drive.
Wow.
So it's not, I mean, she was probably like,
not easy.
This is not easy. I can't drive 6 hours in a day.
Right.
And like go back and forth and stuff. At this time, it seemed like her kids were older and they were not in the house anymore.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
Yeah. She decides to go back for her eye appointment, check on her animals, and stay at the house for a couple more days. But less than a week, she was found dead.
Whoa.
With her husband claiming that she shot herself.
That's crazy.
Yes. So Kendy had told a friend about an incident She had told her boyfriend when she was there and she was being consoled by him. She told him that morning when she woke up, she was awakened out of her sleep. It was still dark. It was wee hours of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
In the wee hours. The wee hours.
Right.
Which are the hours that I get up to go wee. That's why we call it the wee hours. Right? Yeah. So she woke up and her husband, Dan, was standing over her on her side of the bed. He was dressed all in black. And he had something in his hand, but she couldn't tell what it was. But she was very shaken up by it. He wouldn't speak to her. She said he just looked through me. It's like he didn't even know I was there.
Oh my God.
And she was like, it just unnerved me. And I called his name. And then he just walked out of the room.
Wow.
But when she got up, she noticed that there was a magazine from a gun on the floor.
Oh, no.
And she said, I feel like he was getting ready to kill me.
Oh, my Lord.
So, of course, the boyfriend's like, my God, please don't go back. Cancel your eye appointment.
Right.
She's like, no, I got to go. I'm going to be fine. Let's talk about the medical examiner.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm a fan. And sometimes I'm not a fan.
I concur.
Sometimes I'm thinking, what the friggin' hell are you doing?
I think they're very, very quick to rule things suicide when they are not suicide.
Well, this guy, he was about to retire.
Oh.
So I don't feel like he was completely in the game. I think he had 2.5 feet out the door.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. He was just counting the days till he got his cake.
This episode brought to you by Progressive. Whether you're driving, cooking, or doing laundry, Progressive knows the podcasts you listen to go best when they're bundled with another activity. Much like how their Progressive home and auto policies go best when they're bundled. Having these two policies together makes taking care of your insurance easier and could help you save, too. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save over $775 on average. That's a whole lot of savings and protection for your favorite podcast listening activities, like going on a road trip, cooking dinner, and even hitting the home gym. Yep, your home and your car are even easier to protect when you bundle your insurance together. Find your perfect combo. Get a home and car insurance quote at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $779 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
I mean, I do understand that. I like cake.
I do too, but you cannot let it demise the focus of the task at hand. You cannot be,
especially
you cannot allow cake to distract you from your job. No. It is not okay. It's never going to be acceptable for you to be distracted from your job duties, especially when they're important.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a baker, maybe. But if you're a medical examiner,
no, you can't do it.
No.
Don't be distracted by the retirement cake.
No.
It's probably just from like the Food Line bakery.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, maybe they were cold cuts being served or something. Anyway, he said that the death was, at first he said it was undetermined.
Okay.
Couldn't figure out what happened to her.
There was a gunshot wound
in her mouth.
Okay. Did it not come out the back of her head?
I don't know.
Bounced around.
I don't know what happened to the woman. I'm just saying he said it at first was undetermined.
Okay.
And later changed it to suicide by gunshot.
Okay.
He didn't take any pictures of her wounds.
What?
Don't medical examiners take pictures? Isn't that one of the things they do?
I don't know. Maybe not in Idaho. The autopsy photos should
That's the autopsy.
Oh.
When a medical examiner is looking at a body, that's your autopsy.
Okay.
Not on the scene, ruling if she's dead or not. Body on the table.
And he didn't take pictures of her wound?
No. He was thinking about that damn retirement cake.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. The prosecution hired a forensic pathologist to go and look at the body. And that pathologist said she died from homicide that was staged to look like a suicide. They took pictures.
Okay.
They took pictures that showed bruises all over her body.
Mm-hmm.
And said that Dan had used a carotid restraint. That's what it's called.
Gotcha.
And it's a police maneuver.
Right.
Okay. Where they like put their arm around their neck and squeeze.
Right.
So you're not going to have like handprints on her neck.
Right.
Right.
It's like a sleeper. They used to do the sleeper in wrestling.
That's exactly what it is. And so, but what they're doing is they're cutting off the blood flow to supposedly to subdue a rowdy prisoner. I don't think it's a restraint that we should use. I think we need to figure something else out. But anyway, that's why she didn't have the when
the popped capillaries.
Yeah, in your eyes and stuff. She didn't have any of that because it doesn't build the pressure up. It's the way that restraint is that it doesn't do all that stuff. But they said that her jaw had been broken with blunt force trauma.
Right.
Not from a gun.
No.
But from the outside, not from the inside.
Okay.
And then also that there had been signs of a struggle on her body.
Right.
Definitely. And they said.
And I'm guessing that when officers came on the scene, they did not do gunshot residue analysis on his hands. They
didn't
scrape his fingernails to make sure, because it's a woman. She must have committed suicide. If it looks like a suicide, it must be a suicide.
Exactly. I'm just going to say, can we just make a rule that if it looks like a suicide, we investigate it as a homicide until we can prove one or the other, not just assume.
Right. You have to. You have to approach it that way. You have to.
God. So there was
I will never understand why they don't test for gunshot residue on people's hands more often than they do. I don't understand.
Here's my thing. I agree. They should test it. They should have tested her hands. If there is a gun at the scene that could have been used on the victim, everybody on that scene that was with that body it should be automatic.
It should be.
And I don't think it's expensive. And it should be automatic on the victim. But the victim's body supposedly had been submerged in water. But the question that was asked on the stand of this retired pathologist, the medical examiner, Dr. Howard, the prosecution said.
He was a Howard?
Yeah.
Was he related?
It doesn't say.
Interesting.
Doesn't say. So it just makes you wonder. But anyway, they asked him, wouldn't you think that a body that had been submerged in water would have signs of moisture on it?
It didn't?
Well, that was the question they asked. But it was never noted in his autopsy notes whether it was or wasn't. You would think that he would have made a note that the body came to me wet.
Right.
And he was just like, yeah, I would expect that. But so that's what they said in court. That's what one of the redirects.
Right. The defense. Or no,
it was when he was on there for the defense and then they crossed him.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting. And there had been signs from the scene, not just of a struggle, but there were signs on her body of a struggle, like she had glass in the bottom of her feet.
Jesus.
From a broken window pane that was broken in the bathroom.
Good Lord.
And then there was evidence, according to the prosecution's pathologist, that her body had been moved. Something about a right angle of a blood path or something.
Yeah, the way the blood flows. Like,
yes.
When
it's coagulating.
When you're sitting and it stops, it settles, but it's going to flow in the direction gravity is going to pull it, right? So it depends on the way your body is laying, the way the blood is.
And also because of the way the body pooled in her mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because they're saying she was dead when she got shot, but you're still bursting blood vessels that are full of blood.
Right.
So you're still going to get some blood, but it's not going to be, you're not going to have the same type of blood spatter as if it was a pumping heart.
Right.
And then also in the bag, the medical examiner said, the medical examiner number 1, Mr. Retired, he said she was awake. She was alive when the gunshot went off because there was blood in the bag, in the body bag.
What?
Right. But the prosecution said
herself in the body bag.
And the prosecution said, don't you think that would have leaked out of her mouth in the body bag? Like, don't you think it could have just leaked out? Because it was and he was like, yeah, I suppose it could have.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, he was a distracted man. Or maybe this is just how he was all of his career. I have no idea. But for this case, he no good.
No.
When they start looking at their finances and all this kind of stuff, they said that Kendy had ordered a hot tub for her new house.
Mm-hmm.
And there was evidence found in the house that Dan had found that receipt because he was actively seeking a refund for it.
Oh, gotcha.
So he must have found out that she had
ordered this
hot tub. Also, there was a neighbor that talked about how Dan at social gatherings liked to brag about how he could make a murder look like a suicide.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
A little braggadocious at some social gatherings. I don't know if it was like, the liquor loosened his tongue or if he was just trying to like swap stories or, like I was a cop. I know these things.
Right.
Yeah. Can murder you in 50 different ways and we'll never find out or whatever. There were also some friends that said that Kendy had told them she had gone on a camping trip with them and they had asked her about some weird bruises that she had on her arm. She didn't really talk about the bruises, but she just said, Dan is just arrogant and controlling.
Right.
Especially when it comes to money. And I need to leave him. I just want to be free of him.
Right.
And that was pretty early on. That was like 2 years before this.
She was looking to get out.
She was trying to figure out a way. She was making a plan. I have a feeling she was making a plan and wanted to make sure her kids were out of the house first.
Right.
To get them out. And then you start making a plan.
Right.
And you know what? It's completely legal to do that.
It is.
I would even go so far as to say it's moral. That you have a right to do it and it's morally and ethically okay.
Right.
If you're in a controlling marriage, for you to quietly make some plan.
Right.
It's okay. It does not warrant death.
No.
It's not punishable by death.
No.
Friends said that she was petrified of what his reaction was going to be when he found out she was leaving. She was petrified. She had not told him yet. They feel like she told him the day of her death at some point.
Right.
During the day or the night before, when there was arguing. They think it could have even been 3 days before when the police were called for the welfare check. Maybe that's when she had disclosed it to him.
Right.
And then he started making plans to not have to split their $2 million with her. I don't know. Various people said in the investigation and on the stand that she did not like guns at all. She was afraid of guns.
Right.
She did not know how to load one or fire one. So her shooting herself made absolutely no sense. That she was very afraid of them. Typically, people that are afraid of guns don't use them for anything.
Right.
So the day that she returned home, she talked to her boyfriend and said, Dan seems eerily calm and accepting of the divorce. Should I be scared?
Yes. Run.
I know. She was dead within hours of that conversation.
Oh my gosh.
So she saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't go.
I think it's hard for women to accept.
It is very difficult for women to leave.
It's hard for them to leave and to accept that person that they trusted to be their partner in life really is going to kill them.
Not only that, women are homemakers.
Yes.
It's really difficult for a woman to leave her home because she's a homemaker. This is where she's raised her kids and she's made a home for her family. And so I feel like women have a really difficult time leaving the homestead because it's got all the memories and that's your place. So not out of a greedy, materialistic, but out of a sentimental, emotional stance. I think it's very difficult for women to leave their home.
Right.
March of 2024, Dan Howard was finally convicted of second-degree murder and domestic battery.
All right. Good.
In May of 2024, he was sentenced to life with no parole for murder and then 10 years for battery, which runs concurrently. And I hate that word. I wish we didn't even have that word. I don't understand. I wish an attorney out there would just email us, or I don't know. I guess they can't call us. That would be weird, but it would be alarming if they knew our phone number, wouldn't it?
It would be.
But if they would just write to us and say,
Karen's phone.
No. Just email us and say, hey, dummies, this is why they do it, or this is what it means, or this is what it does when there's a concurrent sentence. Because I don't get it. What's the point?
I agree.
I don't get
basically
it.
Like,
why do you even have that as an option?
You get to do it at the same time, but you don't get the time.
Yeah.
It's like free time. I'm going to sentence you to this, but I'm not going to make you serve.
It's like, it's so why even acknowledge it? Why not just say, we acknowledge that you battered your wife, but we're not going to punish you for that.
Right.
It's okay.
You're going to be punished for this one, but not that one.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. I don't understand it either.
Well, the judge did call him a remorseless murderer.
All right.
In court, which I do love to listen to what the judge has to say to the idiot that's being sentenced.
That's great.
I really enjoy that.
I like it when they really bite into it.
Me too. When they go after him.
Mm-hmm.
He also admonished, not admonished. That's a new word.
There you go.
That Dan had been cold and callous. He had a cold and callous attitude towards the victim's family since her death, including Kendy's daughter, who he had raised since she was an infant.
Right.
But he was just callous. Like, he called her to let her know her mom was dead and said, yeah, there was an accident at the house and it looks like your mom shot herself.
Oh my God.
And then after that, he just didn't really have anything to say.
That's crazy.
So how can you, she may not be your blood, but that girl you raised from an infant, you have to have some emotional connection to her.
No, I disagree.
So
you should. You should have an emotional connection. Connection. Oh my gosh. I lost the word. It fell right out of my head.
Protection. It's a new word.
You should.
Admonished connection.
I mean, we got it going on.
Investigatorious. So the judge also said, you snuffed out a life because of your own pride and greed.
There you go. Well stated, Judge.
Yes. These are two of our most deadly sins, pride and greed. They're the two top. I looked up 7 deadly sins and they're at the top. Pride and greed.
Yeah.
You mix those two together.
Toxic.
Something is going to happen. It's going to be real, real bad.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one is wrath, which, that's the violent part.
That's right.
Kendy did not deserve this at all. She just wanted to be free of a man who she was no longer in love with. That is not punishable by death.
That's right.
And she wanted to move back home to see her family, to maybe see if there's anything left with this high school romance guy. And her kids were off doing their own thing. She was a grandmother, for God's sake. Don't kill the grandmothers.
Right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And she just wanted to be free of this man. That should not cause a death.
Right.
It should not cause a freaking death.
It should not.
I'm so tired of it causing a death.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so freaking tired. If we could just stop doing it.
Just don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So anyway,
cut it out.
Yeah. Kendy Howard, God rest your soul. You didn't deserve it. You were just trying to go make your way in life. And this idiot he had pride and greed.
Pride and greed.
And wrath.
He was an asshole.
Yeah. And so may he rot in prison.
I hope so. My God, please do not let him out on good behavior.
Oh my gosh. It's life with no parole. I don't know what the state of Idaho does with their prisoners. I don't know if they just say, just kidding, and let them out anyway. I don't know.
I hope not.
So we'll
I hope
see.
No parole means no parole.
I hope so too. Like, you be gone forever.
You be gone.
Goodbye. So speaking of all this, I just want to have just a quick discussion about this past week in the courts.
You mean the Karen Reed?
Well, there's a couple cases. So we had the guy in Georgia.
Right.
Who finally got convicted of kidnapping that 16-year-old girl.
Yes.
He was found guilty of kidnapping and felony murder.
I was going to say, I don't think that's
federal.
It. Felony.
Felony murder and malice murder. I don't know the difference.
Police officer.
He was the police officer whose gun was found with her remains.
Right.
But he reported that gun missing the same day she went missing.
Right.
So anyway, his sentencing, I guess,
hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened yet. And then we had the other guy with the tattoos on his face. That was,
but we knew he was gonna.
Yeah. Now they're just.
He confessed. This was just we knew that he did it.
Well, he didn't confess. I mean, they went to trial, but his attorneys, I think, halfway through the trial, just decided we're not going to waste our time on this trial. We're just going to put all of our energy into saving his life at the end of it.
Right. Because now it's a death penalty.
So anyway, those were 2 crazy cases.
They were crazy cases, but they're not as crazy as the Karen Reed case.
This Karen Reed case is a kangaroo court.
Oh my goodness.
And anybody from another country that's watching this has got to be like, well, America's real messed up.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
what is America doing in there?
I have watched it every day since
and I've not watched it every day because there's so much toxic behavior around this case on social media. It's gross. It's the true crime community. I could not be more disappointed in a group of people who are supposed to be here for justice and truth and dignity. And I just see them fighting going after each other and accusing each other of lying, of of trying to get more clicks than everybody. It's become a competition.
Oh my gosh.
Which really upsets me because I have seen over the past at least 30 days of people talking back and forth about this case on social media. It is so rare that I hear anybody mention the victim's name.
Right.
They're just talking about the people covering the case.
Right.
Or Karen Reed or her attorney or the judge and her antics and all this stuff. And I just feel like you talk about somebody that's not even.
There are people that don't like the judge. I love this judge.
Oh, there are people that really don't like her at all.
Really?
Yeah. That say that she's in cahoots with the prosecution.
What?
And it's just been one thing after another one.
She's a no-nonsense judge.
Mm-hmm.
A female judge. She wants the defense team to cut the bullshit. She doesn't want to hear the narrative. She wants to hear the facts.
She wants the evidence, not the opinions.
Right. And she doesn't want the show.
No.
The defense team is very showy. They're definitely putting on a show. And I mean, they're very good.
They're good. They're very good right now because I'm going to tell you something. I went into this case leaning towards a conviction. Right now, if I were on that jury, I could not convict her.
But
I couldn't convict her.
Did you hear the evidence that was presented yesterday?
Some of it.
Okay. That was the most telling evidence yet.
Okay.
She did it. In my opinion, she hit him. I think she hit him intentionally. I think she was drunk. I think she went home and I think she fell asleep and forgot. Or she assumed that he was going inside to that party. That's what I think happened. I think she definitely hit him with her car.
I agree with that, but I cannot convict her because the rest of the investigation is sullied because of that asshole.
I understand that, but you can't, just because he has bad behavior in text messages outside of the investigation, about the investigation does not mean that he did not do a good job collecting the evidence.
It was a 16-hour investigation.
I understand. I'm not saying it was a great investigation. How many court cases have we seen that there have been crappy investigations?
And it's really difficult, but when you get somebody that is so... I don't think he's just got bad character, but I think...
In the Georgia case, there were mistakes.
I agree with that.
In the Jack Daybell case, there were a lot of mistakes.
There are mistakes. You have humans and you have people that make mistakes, but this guy, to me, has sullied this whole entire case because of what he did, how he acted, how he continues to act. I can't do it as a jury member. If I laid all of that evidence, I'm not sure what evidence I can trust because of that man.
And I don't see it that way. His behavior was vile. It was immature. I think there's probably a lot more going on. I think a lot more of that happens than what we know.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
But she has a defense team that went down every avenue. And unfortunately, that it's not common for an investigator's private phone to be brought into a trial. That is not a common thing. So he got caught with his pants down. There's no question about it. He behaved badly. But when you look at the rest of the evidence, for instance, they had a guy on that was talking about the way the wheels turned, the trajectory of the car, all of this was in. There's so much information now that you can get from a car's computer system.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And everything pointed to she backed up at a high rate of speed, pulled forward, backed up again, and it was not a 3-point turn. And
she just backed up and then left again.
And the way the car hit something, and she pulled forward and did it again. And he said it was consistent with, it's very hard to not believe what he was saying. He was very, very knowledgeable. Same thing with there was a woman on that talked about the searches on the phone, because there's a big conflict about what times she searched, how long it takes to die in the cold.
He's the one that searched that? Because I thought somebody at the house searched that.
She searched it. I think there more than one person searched it. But she searched it on her phone. And the prosecution says she searched it at 2:00 in the morning. Well, his body wasn't found until what?
5:00.
5:00 in the morning. So that's very telling. And this woman, she was incredible. she disputed and she said, no, this is how, let me tell you how it works when you do a search. If you have your Google open and Karen Reed used Safari, which I think is what you use with Apple.
Yeah. It's the Apple browser.
So she was talking about how if you pull up a tab and you do a search on something, and then you pull up another tab and do a search on something, that first search is still going to come over with the second search.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she did do the search at 2 something in the morning, but then she clicked on, and you can tell because when she clicked on a new tab to do the search at 6 whatever in the morning, when she typed it in, her phone typed up exactly how she had typed it earlier.
Right. Because it remembers.
Suggested search, right? And she had misspelled some words.
Mm-hmm.
So the phone had done that. I mean, the information that they gave yesterday for the prosecution was very telling. Now, a few things. I don't think this is a good prosecutor. He does not have big Creighton energy for sure.
No.
And I'll be honest, before I knew anything about the whole Murdaugh trial, when we were going along in that trial, I thought, what is he doing? I think this prosecutor has made some mistakes. I think he should have gotten this whole investigator Michael Proctor's stuff out on day one. I think he should have told the jurors on day one, we got a big black mark. This is who it is, but I want you to look past it. You have to look past it. And again, I agree. There have been some mistakes. There have been some very, very big mistakes in the investigation, but I still think she did it. The jurors have been told that they cannot
she did it too. I think she drunkenly did it because she was pissed at him.
Yeah.
She didn't know she killed him. She left him there. She didn't try to kill him. I think she tried to hurt him because she was mad.
Yes. And then, I don't think it has helped either. The way when Michael Proctor was on the stand and the defense was rightly so tearing him up for the things that he said and repeated it. I don't even know how many times they've repeated those words because they wanted it to stick in the juror's head. Her smirks.
I saw that.
Were very unbecoming of somebody on trial for murder.
Yes.
It was almost like she was going after him. Now, what the jurors don't know that we know is that the defense has also got this big smear campaign going on for a lot of the people that are witnesses in this trial. And there is another trial that's going to happen with a blogger. I'm not even going to say what his name is, but for witness intimidation.
Yeah.
And these people who are, I don't even know how to describe them. Are they social media people? I don't know. Are harassing and putting fear into witnesses in this trial. And I don't think that should be allowed at all. It doesn't matter that he said all of these horrible things. He does not deserve to be crucified. He deserves to be judged by the people who hired him to do his job. He did not do his job correctly. And he should be fired.
He's an unethical person.
He is an unethical person.
And he should not. I know.
That he tainted the investigation and is trying to spin it.
The longer he's employed, the worse it makes that whole police department situation look bad.
I don't think that they can let him go until the trial is over, to be honest with you.
Well, they probably, because he's probably there on the investigation's behalf.
I think it would result in a mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they don't have a choice. But I dare say once this is all over, said and done, I believe that he will lose his job. I do. I believe that he will lose his job.
We'll see.
Because they're taking a lot of heat on how he behaved. And I think it should be a wake-up call for law enforcement, for people in general. You better pull it together and watch yourself, because people can get into your phone. You are not invincible. You cannot talk
and
about
you're not above the law.
You're not above the law.
No, you're not above the law.
But
you're not above ethics. You're not above morals.
What he did was not illegal. It was unethical.
It is highly unethical of him. So therefore, he should have been removed from the freaking case.
I agree. But nobody knew what was happening.
No. Mm-mm. That whole town. Listen, I don't think I'm ever going to go to this town.
Oh, no.
Because this town does not sit right with me at all. I'm not sure what the hell's going on. Who are you to act this way? I mean, do you not have a mother, a sister, a daughter? Like, why are you talking about women like this?
Right. Definitely.
Like, my God.
But You cannot look at me and honestly say that you don't know people who have used that kind of language or that kind of scenario in conversation with you on their private phone.
Oh, I agree.
The difference is, but if he got caught,
I've never had anybody,
somebody,
I've never had
related event.
I've never heard a person. Nobody has ever used that language whilst in the middle of investigating the events involving the people he's talking about.
I agree.
That's my thing.
Is
there small?
It just happens.
Okay.
That the defense was small.
Is there small town gossip that goes around? Hell yeah. But I guess for me, I would expect my law enforcement to be held to a higher standard than that.
But that's not. I do too. I wish it was that way. I really do.
Put it this way.
I know.
I hold them to that standard. And when they don't meet that standard, I want them gone.
It's disappointing.
I want them out of that job.
Maybe I'm tainted because I just think that's the way. I'm not saying it's okay, but I think that's the way a lot of them are.
And I really
do. I think it's more of this
until we expose more and more about it in trials, and until there is an impact. So there has to be an impact somewhere. And for me, Karen Reed not being convicted is the impact of that man's behavior. That to me is going to send a huge message.
It will.
That when you're a cop and you act this way, it's going to throw a case and somebody's going to walk away and justice is not going to be served and it's going to rest on your shoulders.
Agreed.
And then we're going to hold you accountable for that.
Agreed.
And that's what has to change.
And as his spouse, I would be...
Oh my God,
that serious things.
Well, when she was like, I'm so proud of my husband and all this kind of stuff, after he testified, he was on the stand forever.
His spouse came back and said she was proud of him?
Yes, on Twitter, on social media. I'm not sure which account it was, but said she had a picture of her and him outside of the courtroom. And she was talking about how she's so proud of him and the father that he is and the husband that he is. I would never have done that. I would have looked at him and said, we're going to have some talks when this is over, babe.
And maybe he, I mean, it had to be tough. Your dirty laundry got aired on TV.
A lot of people's dirty laundry ended up on TV.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So
they should be embarrassed.
Yourself. They should
absolutely think about what you do, people, because there are cameras everywhere. Our phones track us. They track what we say, what we do, what we look at. So that's what you're thinking.
Right.
They track it. So if you don't want to be tracked, get rid of all of your electronics. And if you're going to be tracked, remember that you've got to behave.
Have verbal conversations.
Yes. Don't ever put it in writing.
Don't have it over the phone, over text, nothing. Yeah. No. But hopefully it will put a spotlight and knowing really that your personal phone for an investigator can come into a court
if you want to talk like that in the locker room, talk like that in the locker room.
Yeah.
But don't don't type it in your phone.
No.
Don't type it in your phone and don't do it while you're investigating the person.
Hopefully his wife they've had a talking to.
We've had to come to Jesus. I'd have been like, you are no longer allowed to have a phone. You can only communicate with people through verbal.
Right.
Like we'll get a landline. You can talk to people on the phone.
That's right.
And if you need to do one of those party lines so you can tell everybody at once, that's fine.
Right.
But we're not doing this.
Well, I mean, it has been an interesting case to watch. I will say that. But I love that. I'm sorry people don't like her.
I know.
She does not like the bullshit.
She's a no-nonsense judge.
I like her.
So I don't have any opinions about her. To me, she's just the judge and she's doing her job.
Yeah. She doesn't want the show. She don't want you to be showy. She wants you to talk up. Otherwise, she's going to have to turn.
And there's been so much media attention. That's why she doesn't want the show. We've already had the show.
And a juror was excused yesterday. Did you see that on social media?
What happened?
Evidently, the court TV camera caught somebody walking past, and that's what they think. But it has been reported that it was something of a personal nature because she interviewed all the jurors. There were like 3 or 4 that she specifically wanted to talk to. So it was something, I think it was something else other than just the camera shot.
Okay. You think it was something happening in town?
I don't know if it was something happening in town
Or on social
or if
media.
something happening in the jury room or I don't really know, but I think something else happened and she excused the juror and she told the jurors, don't let that impact you.
Yeah.
Like, can you move forward?
I knew we had already lost another one. We had lost one.
Oh, we had?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Because a
that.
man was excused for personal reasons.
Oh, okay.
Like he had a reason.
Yeah, this happened yesterday because part of the day we were, instead of watching the court TV camera, we were watching it via Zoom, which was interesting because the Zoom camera was like right in the person on the stand's face. So you could pretty much see up their nose. It was very...
And then there's no showing other shots of stuff either.
It was only that and then a view of Karen Reed and her attorneys.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah. So there you go. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We really had a lot.
We've had a lot to say because it's been a minute since we were here.
It has been. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. I don't think that they're going to find her guilty. I don't. I think she is guilty. I don't know that the jury, I think the evidence is there. I just don't know.
I think it's hard to get
past.
There
are too many antics right now.
Yeah.
And I think reasonable doubt is going to be in there.
There you go. Yeah. Reasonable doubt. That's such a booger.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, one thing that we definitely need from you all is we need you to stay sweet and don't murder.
Because if you kill people, we'll end up talking to you.
I mean, we're going to talk about you.
We're talk about you. We don't want to, but we have to.
Yeah. And we're going to say things like, I mean, I think they did it and we hate that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
and
also, just watch your P's and Q's.
God, pull it together, people.
Just have a little bit of
think before you do.
Yes.
Think. I think about everything I search on my phone and how I'm sunk if I get caught doing something bad.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, we've always been taught that we were going to get caught.
Oh my gosh. It's been so stressful. We've got to go eat cake somewhere.
We do. We're going to go find cake. Yeah. It won't be retirement cake either.
It will not be.
No. So anyway, thanks so much for listening and hanging in there with us. We got an email this week from a new listener. We're very excited that people are still finding us and still listening from merry old England.
Hello, tally ho.
Tally ho, my friend. So anyway, good things are happening. We'll check in again.
This has been Sugar Coated Murder Podcast.
All right, guys,
have a good
week.
A
deliciously entertaining true crime podcast. Like what you heard? You can always explore past episodes by visiting sugarcoatedpod.com. Don't forget to like our Facebook fan page and share with friends. Thanks for listening to Sugar Coated Murder Podcast.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.